Hi guys, it's TanaCae, and I'm just hanging out here by the pool. I'm actually laying out right now, trying to get a little bit of a tan, and I just wanted to share a concept with you guys. It's from T. Harv Eker's Secrets of the Millionaire Mind, Wealth File number 1. And I just thought that it was so super powerful, and so I was inspired to share it with you guys, and let me know what you think. So Wealth File number 1 is: rich people believe that they create their lives, and poor people believe that life happens to them. And I would have to say that in my own experience, this is pretty accurate. Growing up, I grew up in a lower middle class family, and not to say anything negative about my family, or even that, your amount of money or your class determines how good you are as a person, or your value in any way. But the book is just looking at the differences between how rich people think and how poor people think. And so growing up, I always believed that life just happens to me. I mean, I don't create anything, right? I don't control the way the rest of the world works. And then I found Science of Mind and Spirit, which is, like a spiritual practice, and we practice universal laws and stuff, and I just absolutely love it. But when I found that practice, I mean, the number one thing about it is responsibility. It's complete and utter 100% self-responsibility. I mean, we look at God as the universe, as everything. As you, as me, as that chair over there, the swimming pool and the trees. Everything is just made of the same substance, and quantum physics has, reinforced that belief for me, definitely. But yeah, so we look at God, or, our higher self, as neutral. So that means that whatever you think about, whatever you focus on, is what you get. And so if you're constantly focusing on what you don't want, the universe is like, oh, that's what you want, because you're focusing on it. Even if you don't like it, even if it doesn't feel good, God's not going to jump in and rescue you. God's just going to give you whatever you're focusing on. And so that, that really changed my life, and I started examining all of my thoughts and awarenesses, and I learned not to believe everything that I think, and just really become conscious and aware of where I'm placing my attention, and it has changed my life completely, dramatically. And one of the beautiful and wonderful things about that is you get to choose. You constantly get to choose. And so in this chapter, T. Harv Eker goes into the 3 clues to find out if you're a victim or not, right? And so the first clue is blaming. And I know some people who blame everybody and everything, and their parents and God and everything outside of themselves, for everything that goes on in their lives. And I think that all just goes back to the whole self-responsibility thing. Do you believe that you're creating your life, or do you believe that life is something that just happens to you, right? And so the next one is justifying. And, when people aren't blaming, what are they doing? They're justifying themselves. And they're not blaming somebody else. They're justifying themselves. And all the reasons why they can't, or they didn't, or they won't, or they couldn't, whatever. And so I think that that's really interesting too, because, I mean, it's very similar to blaming, just, kind of the opposite spectrum of that. And then victim clue number 3 is complaining. I absolutely cannot stand to be around people who complain. It is so draining. If there is something that you are complaining about, get up and change it. Do something different. But if you believe that life just happens to you and you have no creative power over that, then I can see how it would be really easy to just fall into complaining about something because you don't believe you have the power to change it. And that's why this Wealth File number 1, this difference in belief systems, is so powerful, because once you take responsibility for something, for everything in your entire life, you reclaim the power to change it, and to influence it, and to control it, and to take it wherever you want it to go. So the homework for wealth file number 1 is for 7 days not to complain. And when you stop complaining, I promise your life is going to change exponentially, because when you're not focusing on what you don't want and giving the power to something outside of yourself, you're forced to focus on what you do want and regain your power and your ability to influence it, to focus on something else and to grow that instead. So I would challenge you all to go ahead and do that. Just don't complain. Just don't complain. And T. Harv says that we have 2 different kinds of habits: habits of doing and habits of not doing. So if you have a habit of complaining, you also have a habit of not looking at the positive side of something. And once you start looking at the positive side of something, because you've stopped complaining, that just creates a whole new habit. And that gives the power back to you to be able to do something to change it. And so I would challenge you guys to do that. Just don't complain. Don't complain out loud. Don't complain in your own head. And if you find yourself starting to do it, just take a step back and observe your thoughts. And remember that you don't have to believe everything you think. And that in itself is also something that's very powerful. So I love you guys. And if you haven't read this book, the book is super good. So I'm going to pick out little things and notice little things in it that speak directly to me. And that may benefit you and influence you. But I would encourage you, if you don't have the book, if you haven't read it, to go out and get it and read it for yourself. Because there are going to be different things that jump out to you than I see and I focus in on particularly. Just because we're, different people at different stages of life. So go and do that, and let me know how the not complaining thing goes. And I love you guys, and have a beautiful, wonderful day.